All right. So, hey, we are 2 minutes past the time. So, I think we can kick in. So, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to this amazing webinar. I'm Tony Joy from Sound Particles. I'm based here in Los Angeles. And joining me today is KJ Singh, amazing engineer, producer, human being, extraordinaire. I've had the pleasure and honor of admiring for many many years. Then I had the honor, I'm pinching myself, of working with him for a short while. We've been good friends. He's an amazing engineer producer known for many many movies over the years, pop records. He's a good teacher, mentor, and an amazing engineer. So KJ Singh, welcome to this webinar, and I dearly calling KJ Saab, by the way, out of respect. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. Yeah, it's been really a fun ride meeting you in US when we were there with AR, and then to work with you and just hang around with you and your lovely wife Tina at that point of time, and just sharing with somebody about audio. You form over the period of time, you form some really amazing liaison and relationships with people who are from your trade, and they stay for a very long time. And I feel that with you and your family it's been like that, though we've not met over a long period of time.
Absolutely.
It
Yep.
just seems like yesterday when I was there and your wife Tina was driving us around and we were having a ball trying to mix stuff and trying to talk about audio and meeting Alan and everything. It just seems, and you just posted a picture of that
Yes.
from
From a
the
decade
faraway
ago,
cabinet.
but it feels like yesterday, right?
Felt like yesterday. So yeah, it's good. And now to talk about a software which your CEO Nuno has created. He's a PhD in computer audio. My God, that's like really
In
beautiful.
music resynthesis, yeah. uh, that's a good
Wow.
segue, I think, about the company. So Sound Particles, we are a small company based in Portugal area, very passionate about everything 3D and spatial audio. As Kejas alluded, the company was founded by Nuno Fonseca, who's our CEO and founder, who has a PhD in music resynthesis, was teaching at two universities. He was teaching music
Wow.
technology in one and computer science in another. And he would actually start or create the flagship software after which the company is named after, called Sound Particles. Right? And then, of course, we also make plugins. So I think without further ado, we should hit spacebar, play some music, and see what we do, what we make here. So these on the screen right now are some of the plugins we make. I have a session that has stereo tracks, right, with some instruments. As you can see, I have absinthe or contact, and I'm gonna hit play. Right, so that's a session that I'm writing in progress currently. It's in stereo, but you might wonder, everyone is now talking about spatial audio. Stereo plugins are great. What if I want to go spatial? Well, the good news is all these plugins actually exist in spatial as well. So every plugin we create is pretty much, the way I like to call it, is format agnostic. We do great things with stereo, but we do better things in spatial formats. So this we will go through each plugin in a minute, but to give you an idea, this plugin is coming in stereo. So if I play something on that pad, it's coming in stereo and then coming out sound 1 2, depending on whatever plugin I might be using, right? So this plugin, so when I play, it's moving real time. So same session, it's all created in stereo, but I have Sound Particles plugin turning them into a spatial session right when I'm writing music, and it sounds like this over Zoom in binaural. You get the idea, right? We are on a small, humble, but also a big mission of democratizing spatial music production, because there's so much noise about spatial audio. And Dolby Atmos is great, but there's much more to spatial audio than just one format. So Of course, we support Dolby Atmos, but we also support 5.1, 7.1, binaural, ambisonics. So that's like a 40,000 feet overview of the products we make. Get this up. Do you think I should just show a plugin or two and then take it from there? What do you think?
Yeah, you should, but I just hang on. Don't change the screen. But I hope
Oh,
everybody
okay.
noticed that energy panel which was in the center when he played that. The one which is shaped like a flower thing, kind of thing. And if you notice that, the sound is emanating from a single point source, and as you see those the buttons move, that's where the sound is moving, and it's like really an amazing effect. Watch that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So that
Good point. Yeah.
visually you can see what's that doing to your sound, how it's going to come together, or how it's going to spread out, and it's a very good visual representation of what's going on with your sound source and what's going to have come out of it. That's really fabulous, Serge. I really like working with. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was a multi-channel version of the energy panel. This is a stereo version where you can do the same thing. You can actually have the sound start at the speakers left, right, and come towards you, right? A good example is vocals. You know how
Mm.
singers usually, when they have a mic, when they sing loud, they actually move the mic away, right? You can simulate that by doing something like this. You can actually put the vocal. This is a stereo track, by the way. You can put something like this and say, when the vocalist is soft, I want her to be here. When she sings loud, I want her to move towards the speakers
Back.
and back. So music pretty much breathes with these plugins. So I think with that, I should maybe jump into Energy Banner actually, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so let me actually, you know what? Let's start with the brightness banner because I can go in order that way. So I have a pads track here. Let me make sure this track is unmuted. So I have a synth, and what brightness panner does is actually this is a panner that pans sounds based on frequency. Very simple concept, right? So you can select from what note to what note. So I can say only start panning above C4. So if I play something below it, it won't move. But if I play something higher, it starts moving. So you can set at what point the frequency should start the pan, right? And you can also choose brightness. So if you want to go by frequency, if you're an engineer and not a musician, you want to say, I don't want anything below 80 hertz to move anything at all. There you go. You can set that, right? So if I play a lower note, there's no movement. You can also do MIDI. So if you have a virtual instrument and you say, when I'm playing arpeggios, I'm working in 5.1, I want the high notes to go towards the back of my room. You can do that. And of course, the speed determines how fast or how slow it should move, right? And then of course you get to choose, do you want to start from the speakers, right? So if it's in the stereo mode, it will start at the speakers, and then you can go to a custom point, which is this. Or if I choose speakers and speakers, of course it won't move at all. Or you can set it to go in circles, which I think KJS have had a very good use case, which he's going to show you in a minute. So that's brightness panel, right? And it has two modes, pan and sliding. The difference being, if I set it in pan mode, it will pan, right? It will pan, start at the speakers and come towards here, or I can flip the direction. So I'm going to increase the threshold. So I can flip it in either direction, but when it's not panning, it will return to that specific point. In the sliding mode, it actually keeps sliding, so which is very useful for textures if you want some randomization, right? And keep in mind, this same track, I have it duplicated here, and the only thing I've done is it's the same inserts. I have the same exact instrument. What I've done is I've created brightness spanner in a stereo to 712 version, which means it's coming in stereo from my absinthe and my filter gate, but then this plugin is turning it into 712. This is how easily you can get into spatial music production. All you need is our plugin suite. We actually even make a spatial plugin suite meant just for musicians, because we want you to be able to create from the very first note. We believe music belongs around you as a creator, right? So that was brightness banner. And before I let KSF talk about the plugin if he wishes to, one thing he was telling me earlier was how much he loves the randomization option here.
Oh, amazing.
Right? Do you want to talk about it?
Oh, yeah, sure, I can. I mean, because I love it so much. So, apart from the presets that you get with the most of their plugins, and especially both the brightness and the energy panel, you can save your own patches the way you like it and what speed, and you can change all that. But this randomization button on the right, which actually randomly changes one parameter from whatever you might have done, and suddenly you have a new surprise coming at you which you might not have thought of or planned, or it's not part of the drop down menu at all in any of the plugins. This is something totally new because it's actually taking one factor, one parameter, and randomizing it, and that kind of changes the whole game. So great surprises. I mean, I've been taken in by the surprises and ended up using some of those surprises and actually saved them because I really loved the way the parameter changed, which I would not have thought of. So it's a great starting point to kind of start with something and then kind of tweak it to your liking, maybe to the beat, to the music, to whatever you're doing. But they are great ideation starting points. That's what I thought about that.
That's perfect. So one thing to keep in mind is when you randomize it, it will give you, of course, random settings for every parameter. If you like something before you move on, make sure you save it.
Save the preset, yeah,
I've been there where I was like, oh, I love this. Let me try it once more. Then I was like,
and
oops,
then
I
it's
wish I
gone.
had saved the previous one, right?
Yeah, because it
So
does not repeat itself.
it,
Whi-
it's
whi-
yeah, it's
which
100%
reminds me,
randomization. Uh huh.
which reminds me, maybe, just maybe, I mean, we can talk to Nuno about it maybe later, is we can have an undo, like a going one step back button and going like, like a forward backward button, like which is not there. So like some of the software plugins have it. Like if you made a mistake in the EQ and you like the previous one better, or you just thought, oh, the last three moves were like not okay. And you can just go back, 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 and you have the last three moves.
Wish
So
list item
maybe
for sure. Maybe.
something to just think about.
Absolutely. So that was brightness panel, right? The next thing I want to show is a very similar plugin. It's called energy panel. Okay, so it looks very similar, right?
Yep.
So the difference between energy panel and brightness panel is, as the name implies, this plugin pans based on loudness. Okay, so this is where I want to introduce these parameters, which most of us know: threshold, ratio, attack and release is often related to a compressor. Right, so I want to clarify that these plugins are panel plugins. We don't do any compression whatsoever. However, we use these terms so you can relate to them easily. So if I play this track, for example, oops, I think soloing this folder would help, or just killing solo. There you go. Let's try that again. So I have a choral track. The threshold determines when it should start panning, right? And ratio determines how much it should pan. The attack and release determines how fast or slow it should move. You can link them, or
Mhm.
usually I prefer a faster attack and a slow release, so it actually kind of breathes, right? Actually, when we share KJSOF's Pro Tools session, you will see how very elegantly he's using these settings, because one of the best things about these plugins is it actually simulates realistic physics-based movement, right? And if you've seen any of my previous webinars I've done, I've spoken about the psychology behind this, right? I won't go into the details of it in this specific webinar, but the whole concept is our brain is pretty smart, and it is also slightly lazy when it comes to energy. It wants to save all the energy. Speaking of energy panel. So any sound that's static or has a rhythmic movement, our brain is like, let's ignore it. Why waste energy focusing on that sound, right? A good example is our heartbeat. Our heart is beating all the time inside our body. It's hitting our eardrum. Now that I mention it, you just heard your heartbeat, right? Because your brain is like, oh, he mentioned heartbeat. Let's focus on that. But if I don't mention it, the brain ignores it unless it starts beating erratically, which is a different story. Point being, any static sound is usually deemed safe by brain and is given low priority of attention compared to any sound that moves. Which is why, as engineers and musicians, we always have, again, vocalists moving, And when we mix, we actually use pan automation, all these things to hook our brain. Automated panners in the past, until these plugins came out, were always so automatic. Again, the brain ignores it. With these plugins, it's reacting to music, so the movement feels natural and it hooks your brain. So this is energy panner, does the same thing as brightness panner but based on loudness. You also have the pan and sliding mode, and of course the ever famous randomizer. So you get random settings like that, and I have it. Oops, actually changing the right one would help.
Oh,
Look
that's
at that.
amazing.
So you can actually record a choir in stereo, bring it in, and have it spin in
Spin around
712
you.
or
Oh,
5.1
that's
if you
cool.
wanted to. So yeah, those are the first two plugins I want to show you guys. KSAB, do you want to show these plugins now, or should I show the space controller before you take over? How do you want to do it?
So what we can do is, while we are on the subject, maybe I can just show whatever little I did. So I
Let's
will
do
just
it.
kind of grab the screen from you and take it from there. I'm
Awesome.
learning all this. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Hope so. Yes. Okay. Cool. So first things first, I'm not at such an advanced level as Tony is to kind of move things around the way he does so beautifully, and he kind of has so many parameters running concurrently and designed so well. I'm still a novice, so I'm getting my hands dirty, and thanks to Tony holding my hand when they are dirty and kind of guiding me through a few times. So I mix music, so I've been actually using them more in the music space rather than the sound design space, actually. So for me, it's important that it sits well with the music. So whatever panning is happening or whatever rotation is happening, it kind of works with the kind of music that I'm doing, mixing. The other thing which I just wanted to say was that unfortunately, most of these tracks are very recent because I just started using them some months ago. So some of them have not been released as yet. So unfortunately, I won't be able to play the whole track as such in that sense, because that we have a whole issues of copyrights and protections and stuff like that from the client and stuff. Though I have this permission, but still that song is not released. So what I'll do is I will just play you the part where I made that effect do what it does, in some certain way to give you an idea. And the first one I wanted to show was the one which he was talking about, the panner. And so let's have a quick look at maybe this one. This is the third one, right? Okay, yeah. So this was a song. It was like a soft, slow song, and the person is writing is talking about how his love shines like the stars, how his love shines like the moon, and it was everything to do with the galaxy, and basically trying to talk about that. And there was this one sound, and I'll just switch off the banner and just play it for you. I mean, you'll get an idea what I'm talking about. So there was this one sound which kind of comes in between two lines. I hope everybody can hear it. We'll know right now. Did you guys hear it? No.
No, no.
Nope. So what am I doing? Okay or wrong? Let me just check. I am on Zoom device.
Maybe when you shared screen, the share sound wasn't turned on. So you can just
Ah,
share screen once more. You can start a new screen share.
stop share and start a new share. Oh yeah, and the sound thing, but I did. And I
Oh,
said
okay.
high fidelity and the desktop
Yeah.
and share. Okay, they can see my screen, but they can't hear it. Then what's the point? Hmm.
Right. So maybe it's going
Hang
to,
on, hang on,
maybe
hang
it's a
on, hang on, hang
solo.
on. No, it is the mute.
Ah, there you go.
Always an engineering thing. Okay, so this is the sound which was there in between the verse, which I can't play, but this is the sound that I got. Just a movement between two lines. So for me, in my mind, it was like, since he's talking about the stars and since he's talking about the galaxy, and what if I made it move like maybe a shooting star or a comet passing by? And that's where the brightness spanner came in. And this is what it sounds like now.
Nice. Can we see the plugin? I want to see what you're doing there.
Nothing much, just very basic stuff. Uh, so for people who are having headphones, you'll just feel a kind of movement, like a bit around you, but not totally, but just going left to right. Very simple.
That's nice.
But I'm making it pass from the back rather than from the front because the music is playing in the front. And this just passes by in the back, just like something happened at the back of your head, kind of thing. That's the thing I was looking for. And I managed to do this fairly quickly. And, I was just talking to Tony about this earlier that earlier on you had to draw. I use a DAW, which you can see is Pro Tools. So you ended up drawing things, either a straight line or a curve, and you kind of did an estimation guess because especially when things are fading in and fading out, sometimes it's a little tough to guess as to at which point you stop hearing it and which point you start hearing it because it's fading
Right.
out relative to the music. So
Yes.
you kind of draw something which might you think will work, but when you hear it in context to the music, you realize suddenly, oh, the sound kind of moved to the right very quickly. I should have slowed it down. So you draw it again, or you kind of extend it or do something. So these plugins, both the brightness and the energy panel, kind of for me, kind of just brought back the simplicity of just hearing it in one go, and you decide till which point. And like he said, it is frequency dependent, and the energy panel is or it's got a threshold. So very easily as engineers, we understand those terms, and it works very well that you immediately get to the point of what you want to do and get your work done quickly and creatively just create something and move on. And if you have time and you want to mess with it, of course, then you can go to the randomization thing and just try out a few things. But for me, in context, this really worked, and the client was happy because just between the two lines what he's talking about, this comet seems to just, or shooting star seems to just go by
That's
in a nice
awesome.
slow speed. So that's what I called it, the shooting star kind of thing. The other one was also an interesting third one. Yeah. So this one is again a long, I mean, I'll play it for you without the panel. So it's a long pad, flute kind of a pad thing, which is just, it's got a bit of a movement.
Right. Cool.
Okay. So that's happening. Let me see if it's got a, just let me check what's there. Oh, no, that's the -1. Okay. I don't know. I can play that. But so again, I'm just trying to find out, can I make it a little more interesting with the song? Can I expand the horizon from where it's moving a little bit? And of course, we'll see it with the brightness panel, what it's doing. It's in a pan mode. And
Awesome.
I hope you can see it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, there you go. So this is what starts to happen.
Very random.
Yeah, this is a random thing happening in it, which is just throwing things off and all, but in the rhythm of what there is,
Right, because it's reacting to the music.
it's reacting to the music in that sense. So there's a, so it's going by the peaks and valleys which are there, if you can see on this track.
Right.
Uh, this one. So it's
Nice.
reacting to that music, where the troughs and the peaks are, and it's kind of throwing it rhythmically to random positions. So what happened was, though it is very much back in the music, so it kind of sneaks in between the beats. Sometime you'll just hear the shift happening and it's gone, like it's under the music most of the time, and then
Yeah.
once in a while it kind of peeks through and kind of makes a movement, makes a sound, and just threw up just interesting kind of sound collages is what I call it. Different kind
Yeah.
of throwing things at you, coming from different things around you in the speaker or in the headphone if you're hearing. And for me, that was interesting in this song, that it had a slow pace, but you had these things coming at you in the middle of the song and randomly.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
because again, like you said, if the brain starts to perceive things as static, you start to ignore it. It goes down in priority. Secondly, when you have predictable patterns, again, after a while, it starts
Yes.
to go down. So here, when you randomize things a little bit, then the brain, this is ear candy. So the brain is still going, wow, what was that? and you expect it to come from the right again because that's the pattern, but it doesn't. It just throws you
Predictability.
from the left, center, or back or
Yep.
somewhere. So that keeps your interest going with the whole song, I felt. And again, like I said, because of the waveforms, it kept peaking in and out, which is what I liked, rather than being. If it was a straight waveform, I don't think I would have got such an interesting result. I would have had to use something else maybe for that. But
Right. I mean,
because it had that.
I love what you've done with the tiny window. You've set a very high low threshold and a
Low
very low
threshold, yeah.
high threshold. So you have a
Yeah.
tiny window that's creating randomization, and like you said, it's not predictable to the brain. And speaking of randomization, if you don't mind, I'm gonna snatch the screen from
All
you
right.
and showcase Density, which is a plugin that thrives on randomization. Okay, so
Yeah.
can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So if I solo this track, and actually I can play it in the mix. Right. So this is a bass track or brass track, I believe. Yeah. Right. If I bypass the plugin, that's the original sound. Okay. And with the plugin. So this is a chorus plugin on steroids, pretty much, right? So again, I have a stereo incoming signal. This version of the plugin I've instantiated is in stereo. It has three tabs. Okay, this is called, the plugin is called Density. You have a basic tab where you can set large ensemble or small ensemble. You know, 2 3 buttons, instant results. Or you can go in and detune, or you have a third advanced tab, which is where I live almost exclusively, because you can create individual modules and create harmonies, right? So we just spoke about randomization, and at Sound Particles, if you're used to our flagship software, we are the masters of randomization, right? We do it very well. This is what Nuno really nailed down when he created Sound Particles. So Density, what it does is it allows you to create different modules with different pitches, right? So you can create harmonies like I have done here. It's creating the chorus particles, right, for each module in a three-dimensional space all around you. Even if you're coming in stereo and coming out stereo, it doesn't matter. Or like I was showing in the multi-channel version, you can come in stereo and then,
Yeah.
oops, wrong track. So you can come in stereo, come out 712. Some of the best engineers I know in the business right now use Density to record choirs in stereo, put it on Density, and come out 7.1, right? Or 702. You don't need the sub for the choir. So the fact remains, all the plugins we make, like I said, are format agnostic. They do amazingly well in stereo, but if you're trying to get into spatial music or audio, these tools are ready to go, right?
Yeah.
So that was Density. And the next thing I would like to show is actually called Space Controller.
Mm.
Oh, yes.
Oh
So I
yeah.
have a Kajon track right here. So that's a Kajon track. And what Space Controller allows me to do is use my phone, right? There's a companion app for Space Controller. And I can close my eyes and point my phone to where I want this Kajon to be, right? So basically, close your eyes and keep changing the track numbers on the app. You can actually keep moving through your tracks and placing sounds anywhere you want. Try closing your eyes with when using a mouse to pan sounds. Let's see how far we get, right? So on the surface, Space Controller does that, of course. But in addition to that, you can also spin sounds around. So if you want to spin a sound around, you can use the phone, of course, or you can use the mouse. And this is even more powerful in a 712 or a 5.1 session, right? So if I have a Space Controller in a 702 format, I can actually spin the sound around in space. So imagine a synth sound or a electric guitar sound that you can actually just take and just go whoop in 5.1 or 7.1 or stereo or binaural, right? So Space Controller is a panner app that allows you to do much more things, either using your phone, because again, like KJ saw, I also like knobs and faders. The reason being, I can close my eyes, right? One thing I learned from H. Sridhar, who is a mutual friend and mentor, he would always say, "You're not a visual guy. Close your eyes and listen."
Yeah.
Which is what all this comes down to, the art of mixing music. Uh, so that was Space Controller. You can use it as a format converter too. That's one thing I would like to point out to people who might be beginning their career in music or sound. One of the biggest thing people realize is they want to explore what spatial audio is like, right? But they might not be making enough money to spend $5,000 on 11 speakers and interface, right? I personally feel, and at Sound Particles, we also firmly believe spatial audio needs to be democratized. So, what Space Controller can do for you is you can create a 5-1 session, throw in Space Controller on the master bus, and basically go from 5-1 to binaural. And we do a decent, very good binaural solution in Space Controller. So that actually allows you to feel that 5-1 with your headphones. That's all you need: a laptop, headphones, and Space Controller. You can walk in 5-1. So that was Space Controller. You have more features. I won't do a deep dive into it this time. Maybe we'll do one more later down the line, another webinar on that. Uh,
You also have the other one, Doppler, the cool effect that you showed me. Oh, sorry, the air is there. Oh, money. So
yeah,
many of
we
them you
can.
have.
We have so many toys, right?
You have so many toys, man.
We have so many
Right. So
toys.
the air is there, yes.
Air is there. So we have Air for music. We also have another version of Air, which was the first version we made. Oops. I think actually you have it on one of your sessions, right?
Yeah,
So when
so
we
yeah,
share
I can
screen, we
see
can
that.
show that.
Yeah.
So
So let me
you want to jump
try.
in?
Yeah, I'll jump in on the air part
Okay.
and let's see if that
Yeah.
air is cool.
While he shares screen, I will actually explain what the concept is all about. Uh, we always add tape effects or roll down the highs to simulate distance, right? Then we try to do EQs to make it sound like it's far away. And at Sound Particles, we created a plugin that gives you one knob with which you can simulate distance. So that's the flagship version of Air. It allows you to simulate distance using that one knob, either in feet or in meters, depending on which part of the world you live in. This flagship version also allows you to choose a location. So if you're working on sound effects, let's say you had a helicopter sound that you recorded in Los Angeles, and you have a sound effect recorded somewhere else, you can choose Los Angeles from the drop down menu, which essentially does is it adjust the temperature and humidity, because physics, right? Sound is affected by temperature and humidity. So if you change those two knobs, you can actually match a sound to make it sound like it was recorded in Death Valley or Beijing or London. So that's the Air
That's really
plugin.
crazy, man. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, wow. I mean, humidity and temperature to match that for your sound design is so wild. I mean, so crazy, man, but
yeah.
like so workable.
And
Uh,
one knob which you can automate. So if you have a sound that you want to make it like a helicopter is a good example. If you want to
yeah.
make it fly away, you can actually use that one knob to make it fly away, bring it back. But for music purposes, we also released a free version of the plugin called Air for Music, which is literally one knob, allows you to put distance. So you can throw that in your session and say, I want my drummer to be 30 feet away from me. I want my singer to be at about 10 feet away from me. So you can simulate distance using one knob. With
Yep.
that, I will let KJ show you how he's been using it.
Uh, like I said, I think these tools from Sound Particles are great tools for sound design, no doubt about it. I mean, density, just look at that, what it can achieve and do, and this air with humidity and matching stuff. But it's also a great tool for doing musical work as well. And as I found out when I had got the air and he was explaining it to me what it does. So there was this one song which the music was playing everything, but there was this a small piano piece which was playing, which the client wanted to be in a distance. I mean, he said, I mean, you should strain to kind of hear it. You should not hear it really clearly. It should not come at you. But if you really listen to it carefully, you should be able to hear it. So what happens as a music mixing engineer? Your first thing to do is just like roll off the highs. That's the first thing you
Yep.
think of, and have put it in a reverb or something and throw it at the back. And in terms of depth, kind of just push it at the back. But that involves doing 3 4 steps, and I've discussed this with Tony as well before, especially when you're doing dubbed version for sync sound. If you don't have a sync sound and you're a dubbed version and you want to recreate something which is closer to sync sound, and if to have to create somebody just going like this, see what happens to my tone which it changes. So I have to do a pan, I have to do a volume, and I have to do an EQ to kind of simulate that live sync sound from a dubbed version. I mean, I went through that on a film that I did, and this plugin kind of just kind of brought home that point again to me. And when I was using it musically, again, like I said, due to whatever copyrights, I cannot play the song, but I'll play you just the piano track. So this thing is just playing in the back somewhere. Sounds something from a like a horror thriller thing. I think when I
Sounds
hear it
cool.
kind of solo, no, but it's a part of a music track. So I wanted to push this back, and I did this. I think I was somewhere around 2400 actually, somewhere when I started off. Then so this is what it. So see what this does. All right, and the sound is actually this up front.
So realistic, right?
So in the mix, when you're kind of working with everything else, you kind of just take this one knob and you kind of dial it in till you find the sweet spot where you think it really sits well, and that's it. You're done. I mean, it's pushed back, it's barely audible, it's taken care of it. And I really like the simplicity of this plugin, that it allows you to kind of just move things back and forth so quickly, and you can fine tune it, you can come back to it and still fine tune it. But that's it. I mean, that's all
Yeah,
it takes. And the one
that's
for music is really fabulous as well.
exactly. I mean, yeah. So let me share my screen again to show the music one. So I think, like Kejas very well explained, what Nuno and the amazing developer team we have here at Sound Particle have done, they took all these three or four steps, right? Reducing the volume. So we have a distance attenuation here, right? Once you set it, when you adjust the knob, it's actually adjusting the volume too. So you have multiple steps brought into one knob. So let me play the cajon again. Uh, right? It basically, if you close your eyes, you can feel the cajon player somehow fading away, as if the camera was taking me far away or something. It does
Yeah.
amazingly well on dialogue too, actually. I just found out,
Yeah.
because
I
the
hope.
thing is, we are not simulating a tape or anything, because we actually went to the field and measured how sound behaves in these distances. It's a very simple plugin, does one thing and does one thing right: simulate air, just like how we hear sounds in nature. So that was air, and air for music. The air for music is free, just so you know.
Yep.
And then the next thing I want to show was actually the Doppler plugin. So I have a car engine sound here.
I love that one. I love this
So
one.
this is an idling car engine. There is no movement whatsoever, right? I'm gonna turn on the Doppler plugin we make, and I'm going to set it to factory default, so I'm not even using a preset. All I'm doing is increasing the gain a bit so you can hear it, right? And you get that. Which is cool in itself, right? But first things first, you get all the basic settings: source, speed, acceleration, direction. You can change kilometers to miles and all that good stuff you will see in any standard Doppler plugin. But you also get air EQ built in, so you get to determine where the car is passing through. Is it in London with 20 degrees Celsius, or is it in LA, right? Where it, well, right now it's pretty cold right now for me, at least here. So it's like in the 50s today. So you can change the air in which the car is passing through, or whatever you might be trying to make move. You also can determine how close or near the mic operator, a virtual mic operator, is standing. So you can simulate distance. If you're working with picture, you might know, okay, the camera is about 20 feet away from the train that's about to pass by. You can simulate that. You can rotate the mic, and you might wonder, why do I want to rotate the mic? Well, remember, we are a format agnostic company. You can come in mono and you can come out 5.1, 7.1, 7.1.2, or ambisonics all the way up to third order. let's say I cannot do 7-1 right now because this track is a stereo, but the use case here is that I might want to rotate the mic and have the Doppler happen off camera behind the screen. So you can come in mono and have the Doppler happen at the right edge of the screen and escape the room and hear it around me, all with this one plugin. And to save everyone's sanity and hair, we also have a feature called lock to time code. So the Doppler happens exactly at that frame, right?
Mm. Well,
So
I love this, and I'm actually now just things are coming into my head that I want to actually use it in a musical phrase as well to see how I can get that Doppler by with the sound effect or something. Which there's a new song which I'm doing, and I'm my mind is already going like, okay, this I need to use in that song that has a lot of effects
that'd be
and.
awesome. Hey, let us know how you use it. I would love to see how you use it.
So I just wanted to point out one thing. If I'll grab your screen again,
Uh huh. Go for it.
uh, one more song that I did. Again, unfortunately, guys, this is yet to be released. But this was so on this song. I really got my hands a little more dirty, and I kind of ended up using a lot more stuff on it. So there's this sound. There's this new band that I'm working, two guys that I'm working with in Punjab, and this is one of their songs. So I'm just playing the flute part, right? So I'm just doing a sliding thing on it, or moving it.
Cool.
Simple, nothing complex, but just and you can automate this part now. So you can at the end of the phrase, you can create a so you can do things like that, or that you can
Nice.
automate stuff like that. And this just gave it again a sense of movement to the whole thing. And I'm all about like how can I move this piece a little more than there was this no this is a vocal piece. I don't know how we are going to get by with that. But let me see. Okay, these are again energy panels. Hopefully this will be very soft. So I'm just so again most of the stuff is moving. This is already in the reverb. I got it as a reverb piece, but I kind of moved it just back and forth, left and right, just as a kind of an effect again in terms of movement. And again, with the piece of music, it kind of just sat with the beat. So I just kind of got the threshold right and the ratio right, and the beat was getting mapped very quickly. And even with the reverb, surprisingly, when the movement happened, normally when you do a left right in terms of your automation, you get this jerky reverb kind of moving from left to right.
Yep.
Surprisingly, I don't hear that jerkiness with these plugins when things are moving to left to right. There seems to be some kind of a smoothing algorithm or something which happens there, which doesn't make it sound like that. That's what I,
Shout out to our engineers
you
and
know,
developers. We have an amazing team in Portugal who work behind these plugins.
yeah, and they did a great job on that because I noticed this the first thing that I was not getting any of those jerky movements, and I said, "Wow! I mean, I can actually move things really quickly." But because this voice was with the reverb, and
Right.
I was a little worried, but it didn't sound, and in the mix as well. I mean, it didn't sound jerky. It sounded smooth. It actually sounded that I'd done the movement first and then added the reverb because the reverb was just smoothly kind of smearing
Right.
from left to right as well. That really I think was a great thought put on that, and thanks to Nuno and his team on sound particles. And while you're on the subject of density,
Uh huh.
something which struck me while we were in lockdown, and so we were doing some podcast recording, so we were recording some thriller stories during the lockdown. I mean, I had a mic at home and we were recording stuff. And the brief that I got from my client was that he wanted the sound of one single cat crying, and then the cat is hit by somebody, and then it yelps and cries. And slowly there is a the guy turns and sees there's a funeral pyre, and there are about 1,000 cats which are crying in mourning. So that's the brief I got, and I'm saying, okay, so we need to figure out how to make 1,000 cats cry and mourn at the same time. And I reached out to my good friend Vijay Ratinam, who's a sound designer from Chennai, who's done a lot of good work all over the world now. And I said, Vijay, how do I do this? Yeah, and I mean, this is like 1,000 cats crying. And and he said straight to me, if at all there's any software KJ which can do this, it's sound particles. And till that point, I'd never heard of sound particles. And I said, wow, so what is this software? And he said, that software can do it. Here's the link. Go and download the demo and just check it out. And believe me, I did. And the stuff that I saw in it really inspired me to kind of say, wow, I mean, I can
Let
do
me
a
take
lot
the
with this.
screen. Keep talking.
Sorry?
I'm just gonna share the screen so they can see sound particles. But keep yeah. So this is what he's talking about, people.
What I was talking about. So it was daunting in the beginning because, I had no idea what this software does and how to go about doing it. So I was trying to get some YouTube videos to try and figure out as to how I actually should operate. How do I multiply those sounds? And then I just did a very basic sound design process of getting a few cats crying and pitch shifting and all that work I did just to give the client an idea. Ki, this is what it's going to sound like, but it was
Right.
never finalized. We didn't go there. So then I found out that Tony was with this company, and when Tony and I had an exchange, and he actually we went through the sound particles, the software, and then that's when I realized that's how I need to use to make those cats sound, which are now going to happen because now we are getting
There you
into the
go.
final phases. So now all those cats are going to the 1,000 cats are going to come alive with this demonstration, which Tony is going to tell you about.
Yes. So this is a so I want to be respectful of everyone's time, including yours, KJ Saab. So I know we are a bit over 45 minutes, but we have lots to talk about. So I want to dive deep into sound particles. Hopefully, if there's interest, we will do another webinar on just on sound particles. But this is our flagship product called Sound Particles. If you've seen any major Hollywood movie in the last few years, more than likely you heard Sound Particles in action. And what it does is CGI for sound. So I have a few whistles here, for example, right? I have a few whistles. I have a few boos, some sound effects, right? Like seven of them. And I'm telling sound particles this track. I am giving seven source files and telling sound particles to create 80 particles, brand new sounds in three
Out of
dimension
that.
space based on these files, so
Wow.
forth and so on. So I have a track with crowd creating four particles every second. This track creating 50 whistles, 80 boos, 120 cheers. You get the idea. So you're looking at a consolidated DAW session that might easily spill over 600 tracks, maybe more. And sound particles, all you need is a few tracks. And then, just like a virtual camera in animation, you get to throw in a virtual mic. It can be stereo, it can be Atmos, it can be NHK if you wanted to. And you can, of course, move them around and place them anywhere you want. And let's see what it sounds like. That's what's most important, right? So, here we go. You get the idea.
This is
But
so cool, man.
this is how it all started, right? So like I said, I just want to do a quick showcase of sound particles. We also make a software, a free software, mind you, called Explorer. It's a database application. You can drag and drop in all your sound effects into it. We don't touch your metadata, so everything is safe. It's read only. In addition to that, we also allow you a cloud service, which is not free. It's a subscription plan, but the software itself is free. You can use it to manage your own sound libraries that you might record. We also give you a small collection of 100,000 plus sounds, high quality sounds that you can use for your sound design. and you can see them. So this one is from the cloud. What makes us unique again is the format agnostic part. So as you can
Mm,
see, this file is actually a 5.1 file, and it's
mm,
in 96 kilohertz, and well, you have it right there.
yeah.
But the cool feature about this one is, remember, going back to energy and brightness, you can look at a sound and say, oh, this is a bright sound, without having to play it. So a good example is if you're looking for a gunshot sound or something that's very sharp. By the time you play 20 sounds, your ears are like out. You don't have to do that. Save your ears. Look at the frequency, look at the energy. So we are trying to make your life easier in many ways. Before we go into Q&A and also announce the winner, I want to show one last slightly advanced workflow with Energy Panel, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's actually about making, again, remember, like you just said, it's when it comes to music, especially, it's about making pieces of art, right? Writing automation has its purposes, but it's very hard to make two singers react to each other using automation. Try it, right? I would put it as a dare. So I have this vocal track. This is a reference mix I have. I have two singers singing at the same time, and they are exactly on my nose, right? Of course, I can pan them and kind of maybe move it a bit with automation. It won't sound natural. So what I did is I took this male track and the female track, vocal tracks, and put energy panel on them. And me being cheeky, I am actually using sidechain. So this is the female lead vocal track, and I'm using the male vocals as a sidechain. And what I'm doing here with the sidechain turned on is I am telling the plugin if she's singing by herself. So if I pull down the male vocals, she's going to be in the center. So yeah. So she's right there in the center. The moment he starts singing, I want her to step to the side. And I can do that with the male vocals too. So now they're pushing each other as they sing. So if it's a duet, imagine this, only when one person is singing, that person will gravitate towards the center. When they both start singing, they'll actually step away from each other as if they were singing on stage with one microphone. And all you have to do is set the right parameters, sit back, and enjoy. There's still automation, there's no pulling hair. Oh, now it sounds too far. And this can be done live too, depending on your interface and your delay compensation settings. You could actually have this happen in real time while you're tracking, because this will inspire people as they sing. That's key, right?
Yeah. And the sidechain, I mean, there's so many possibilities with the sidechain that I could think of. I mean, like, you could be sidechaining so many things musically. I mean, we only think of sidechaining in terms of EDM music or something else, or duck a voice in a AV program, or duck the music in the AV program for the voiceover. But
Yep,
here you can have so many instruments which could be sidechained and moved, not just sidechained to kind of duck, but also
exactly.
pan and move
Yes.
it around at the same time because of some other source.
Yeah.
That is a crazy idea. I mean, the possibilities are endless. Where you want to go with this, with the sidechain program. Wow.
Absolutely. Especially if you look at, I don't have a wired session for that, come to think about it. But even in a spatial format, right? So if I actually go to one of my spatial energy panels just to show you, you can do the same thing here too, right? You can have something very big and huge right on the face. I don't know, maybe a brass section, and there's a saxophone lead that comes, and you can actually say the brass section moves from the center towards the speakers only when the sax is playing.
Yeah.
Bam. So yeah, the possibilities are endless, and this is what I wanted to showcase. And I think we should
I
jump into a
I
quick. Oh,
tried
sorry.
that once with a kick with the snare. I think. I mean, every time the snare hit, that guitar chord, it went through an electric guitar sidechain. So every time the snare hit, that guitar chord was to the right. But otherwise, it was playing
Ah,
in the
right.
center. Chum, chum, cha, chum, cha. Every third and the first and third, it would actually go to the right. Oh, sorry, the second and fourth, it will actually go to the right. But otherwise, it was playing in the center. So you could do
Right.
things like that without having to draw anything, without having to automate anything. Just using this thing, sidechain it to the cake or sidechain it to any other instrument, and just
Right.
decide how much movement you want and where do you want the sound to go, and that's it. And that kind of took care of everything for me. And that for me was an eye opener. When I first used that sidechain, and that I was thinking, wow, I mean, the possibilities are so many. And of course, in spatial audio, it takes on a totally different gamut of
Yes.
like what you can do with that kind of thing. I mean,
And
there's
the fact that you can tweak attack and release means you can determine how slow it should move, which is my favorite use case, right? I don't
also
want
a
it to
fast.
jump back and forth. I want it to
Mm,
move like as if these people are here in my room or in my inside my head,
right.
right? So with that, I'm going to stop the screen share. We have one to announce the winner who was randomly chosen, who will get the 6FX plugin. We will
Well,
also have a discount code as a gesture of gratitude to all of you who joined us today. So you will have a discount on of 30% on all our products for 3 days.
wow.
So Russian. Also a huge shout out to Sudeep Audio and Aditya Mehta for helping us with this webinar, for all the love. And with that, I'm going to invite my amazing colleague Joao Franco, who's currently live from Portugal, to see if we have any questions that we should discuss before we wrap up.
So,
Hi there, guys. So, a few questions are unanswered, I think, but one that just popped up from Cedric was if we have pop-up text description for parameters. So I think we have it on the bottom of
We
every.
do, yes.
Yeah. So do you want to show it,
Let
Tony?
me absolutely. Actually, I saw the thing and I was doing it without saying it. But yeah, so if you
Yeah, yeah.
hold the mouse over a plugin, so let me make it bigger so everyone can see. So
yeah.
if I place the mouse here, you will actually see that pop up right here. It describes
Well, yeah.
what
Exactly.
each parameter is, uh, and then of course you can actually click
That's
there to get to anything. Yeah, but yeah, we believe we need to have more useful features like that. So thank you for the input and keep them coming.
So, other question from Subin. This one a little more technical. Subin asks, when you push sounds further back in space, how does it affect the time relation? Also, how will it translate in a big PA system?
The
Big
BPA.
no PA system for live
But the
sounds.
PA system. Oh, okay. Sorry, I heard the BPA system.
Oh,
Uh, how did it actually in the PA system? It would show up the same way that actually you would see us. You would actually hear maybe like if you have a stage. I mean, let's say you have an 80-foot wide stage and which is about 30 feet deep. If you want to actually place the instruments the way you see them in terms of depth, you could actually create that quite realistically without having to touch a lot of EQ or volume pad. I mean, if you drop that air in there and then you move the second row of guitar players just back with the air, that would just give them that kind of a sensibility. You will get a feel of that even in 2D, just with left and right speakers. But you would
right.
sense that happening because you've just moved them back a little bit. And if you want somebody more further back, suppose you want the chorus, which is standing right at the back, to be actually felt that they are on the third tier at the back. You could actually move with air. You could move them that much back as well. So possibilities are endless. I mean, you could do crazy amount of stuff with that.
Yeah,
Live installations. I mean, when you have installations, you can actually use it there as well to create a kind of depth in whatever you are hearing with the kind of sounds or whichever the monument might be. There's so much stuff that you can use it for.
yeah. So I'm glad the live sound thing came up because one thing we
Hmm.
did not speak about is a plugin app we may call Space Controller OSC, which
Mhm.
Joao can confirm, I hope, works with the Lisa system for live. So you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
actually,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure.
so
With
you
Lisa
can
and Spot.
stand in the middle of the venue with your phone and pan sounds
That
Yeah.
sounds, yeah.
as you
So
prep for the show.
my suggestion would be for anyone that wants to try this, just go to our website and download the trial. It's free. You have 30 days to test it, and
Yep,
you may be convinced of it, and maybe if you want, you can buy it.
absolutely. So cool. Did we have any other questions, or should we just go ahead and announce the winner?
Any
I
more questions?
I think we can announce the winner. If anyone feels like its question was not answered, please just send an email to the support, and I will be answering myself. So no problem at all. Just send a support ticket.
I just saw a question from Dhruv, but I think Dhruv, that's got to do. if we are doing a discussion on, let's say, some immersive mixing webinar, that's related to that, not so much to sound particles, what you want to know, because you want to know about object-oriented approach and stuff like that. So I think that one will, sometime when we do a seminar on webinar on immersive mixing or something, which is slightly separate topic, then we can talk about that. So that's my suggestion. Anything else? Yeah, musically, from my side, like I said, I loved using these plugins musically. They're so easy to use and also musical in their understanding because they're musical plugins, at the end of the day. And I just find that trying to use them in innovative ways, I'm coming up with new ways. Every time I open this plugin, I just think of new ways to kind of apply it. I mean, it's never the same thing, though. These are my early trials with this plugin, what you just saw, and I was slowly diving into deeper every time I went into it. And I just find them fascinating that every time I come up with something new. And that's the beauty of
That's
a plugin to have that, you have every time you're coming up with something new. And I've not even gone in the randomization part as
part
yet.
yet.
Just on
Right.
my own, I'm like kind of fooling around with it. So yeah, man. So great going, you guys, at Sound Particles, all of you, the engineers, Nuno particularly. And thank you, Mariana, at the back. We owe you some Kit Kats for
uh,
putting it all together and doing your job so beautifully. Thanks a lot
we have
for
an
that.
awesome team. So, a couple things I want to mention. One, I just saw a question about which mentioned Nuendo. So, one thing I want to bring up is, of course, all our plugins work on pretty much any DAW, Cubase, Nuendo, Logic Pro, Pro Tools, of course. But with Nuendo, we actually have a deep OSC integration, which means you can actually buy Space Controller OSC app on the App Store, and it can actually control the native panel inside of Nuendo. So you can
Wow.
actually, yeah, and you can also control objects too inside of Nuendo. So that's one shout out I want to give to Steinberg and Nuendo guys. So if you're a Nuendo user, then yes, absolutely go check out Space Controller OSC. And as we wrap, I just want to say two things. One, we need to announce the winner of 6FX, which I want KJS up to do.
Okay, so the winner announcement is Diksha Mishra. Diksha wins the 6X bundle. Is that the one that she wins?
6FX, yes, all the plugins we
Oh, wow.
make,
All
pretty
the
much.
plugins. Wow. So, all the best and congratulations, Diksha. You are the winner. And for others, like Tony said, the 30% is on for next 3 days. Go grab the plugins, man. Seriously, you are going to enjoy it. It's going to bring a smile on your face every time you try it. You'll suddenly feel like a child, like all over again. Like, wow, I got something
Wow,
absolutely new out of this, and like this is amazing.
that's
And
good. Thank you.
and you feel a little ownership, saying, I don't think anybody else has done this. Normally what happens to engineers, like when we come up with something, we all feel, I don't think anybody else has done it. I've done it, so I'll be the first one to do it. And then you realize, 100 others have done it. But with these, I find every time you do something new, you feel I've kind of got something new in a small corner somewhere of my own. And it's adding value to what I'm doing, and it's kind of speeding up my work. And you feel good about it. And that's what I like. This has something for everybody in there. So, guys, try it out. 30-day
Yeah,
free trial. And they are not very expensive plugins. They are really, really, I think Nuno has really done an amazing job on this. Seriously, guys. Hats off to him
thank you,
for his
KJ.
genius and his team who are coding it, who are putting it well. They are light on the system. They run very quickly. They're efficient. The knobs work. Everything works. You don't feel a sense of latency, or you don't feel a sense of that something is not moving when you try and do it. So I like that, and it really kind of gets going and to the point very quickly. That's my input to the spawn particle thing, man.
Thank you
And I'm
for
not
the
an endorsee.
yeah.
I mean, that sense that you know, I I I just like talking about the stuff that I use and I like. I mean, everybody knows that. So I really like their stuff.
That's
No
thank you.
bones about it.
Well, here's the thing. So I'm glad you love the products, and as we speak, Nuno and our engineers are working on something very cool behind that closed curtain behind me right now. And I won't go into too much details, but let me just say you will. find yourself like you are at in a candy store. In a few months, we have something
Mm.
very, very exciting, very musical coming out real
Mm.
soon. So watch this space, and we will be doing more webinars and more sessions soon. Thank you so much, KJ Saab, on behalf of everyone who attended, everyone at Sound Particles, and from me and my family. You've been a family friend and a dear friend for decade, and there will be more decades to come. So thank
Yeah.
you so very much for today.
Thank you so much, Tony, for reaching out. When you joined Sound Particles, I remember you reached out to me and said, "Do you need any help with anything?" And I was just getting into those, and you opened up my mind to so many possibilities. And thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And there's still the possibilities are still going on. Even today,
Wonderful.
I'm found so many things that I could do with it. So yes, thank you very much, Sound Particles. Thank you very much, Tony. And this was great. And thank you, everybody who was here. You took the time out. For some, it's very late. For some, it's really early morning. And that's how the world is right now. But thanks for taking the time out. And if you have any questions, you can still post them to Sound Particles and Tony. And I'm sure
Definitely.
they can reply to your queries in case you have any.
Sure.
And any of the stuff which is funny and interesting, you can write to me.
There we go. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have an amazing rest of the day ahead.
You too.
Thank you. Bye
Bye
now.
bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Good night from my side. Good
Yeah.
morning to you. Bye bye.